Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. And Monday Night Raw, as usual, god-awful show, absolutely terrible, boring. But tonight on the show, we had the triple threat match for the Raw Tag Team titles. It was RKBro versus Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and the Alpha Academy. We have Bron Breakker from NXT. He's the NXT champion. He ended up appearing on Monday Night Raw tonight, teaming up with Tommaso Ciampa to take on Dolph Ziggler and Roode. And tomorrow night, Bron Breakker, Tommaso Ciampa, Dolph Ziggler, and Roode are going to be in a triple threat match. And then we had Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley versus Carmella and Queensland Vega. If Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley won the match, they get added to the triple threat match at WrestleMania for the women's tag team titles. And we have Finn Balor versus Austin Theory. Overall, Monday Night Raw tonight, terrible show, god-awful, as always. But before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded today, did a movie hunting video, went to the Salvation Army to see if they had anything new for DVDs, Blu-rays, and VHSs. Only DVDs and VHSs, were there. Did not see a whole lot of Blu-rays. There was some, like the Gulliver's Travels, with Jack Black Blu-ray in there. But check out my movie hunter video if you guys haven't seen it. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with footage from the house show on Saturday night from MSG. And it was a video of Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. And we had Brock fighting off Roman, and he was also fighting off the Usos. And Brock Lesnar ended up cornering Paul Heyman, who was screaming like hell. And he was like, "Brock, I love you! I love you!" And then Roman ended up attacking Brock from behind with the chair. He was just doing a chair shot to Lesnar. And one of the Usos ended up giving Roman the ring steps, and he ended up jamming the ring steps into Lesnar, busting Lesnar open. And Roman ended up slamming Lesnar on top of the ring steps. He stood over Brock Lesnar with both the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship in hand. And that was that. But you could check out the footage of that on WWE's YouTube page. You'll probably find it on their social media. So just type in Roman Reigns sends a brutal message to Brock Lesnar at Madison Square Garden live event. And you can find it on WWE's YouTube channel. But we saw footage of that. And then we had the first match of the night, which was the triple threat match for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Alpha Academy ended up defending the titles against Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and RKBro. And this was a good match. This was the best match of the night. This was probably the only best match of the night, in my opinion. It was very entertaining, and these teams end up delivering in this match. The wrestling was good here. So Kevin Owens ended up coming out first, and then Seth Rollins made his way out. So Rollins ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that he's excited about tonight. So Rollins and Owens ended up going on about how they've had a rough year and how they keep coming close, but coming up short. Owens ended up saying that he isn't thrilled about having to wrestle in Texas at WrestleMania, but at least he will be with his best friend. So Rollins ended up showing us a video package of, leading up to this triple threat match. So we saw that. And then after the video package was over, Owens ended up going on about how they and their momentum is undeniable. Just like Dallas sucks. So Kevin Owens still taking shots at Texas. So I'm saying that Gable and Otis suck. So does RKBro. So the Alpha Academy ended up coming out. Otis and Chad Gable. And WWE had to put Chad Gable going shush in the Alpha Academy's theme music. Man, if you thought Moss's theme music at Elimination Chamber, where it was just going joke, was terrible. Man, this was worse. Just Chad Gable going shush in the Alpha Academy's theme music. So then Chad Gable and Otis end up coming out. Chad Gable ended up getting on the mic and he was going shush. Awful. So he ended up getting on the mic. He ended up going on about how last week's win for Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins was a fluke. He ended up saying that tonight they will finish this crap and waltz onto the grandest stage in the ball, WrestleMania, to defend the Raw Tag Team Championship. So then we saw RKBro backstage, Orton and Riddle. They were with Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick ended up asking RKBro for any last words before they head out for the triple threat match for the titles. So Randy Orton was hyped, and he said he just wants him and Riddle to win because of how hard they've worked and how far they've come. So Orton was fired up about winning the Raw Tag Team Championship back. So, of course, you had Matt Riddle starts rambling. So then RK-Bro end up heading out. So Orton and Riddle end up coming down to the ring. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, the match got on the way. Rollins ended up delivering a super kick to Chad Gable to the floor. Rollins and Riddle end up going at it. Rollins delivered a sling blade to Riddle, which he went for the cover, which Riddle kicked out at 2. Kevin Owens ended up tagging in, and Owens and Rollins double teamed on Riddle. Owens delivered a senton, and he was trash talking to Otis. Riddle ended up fighting Kevin Owens off, and Owens ended up blocking a kick from Riddle. He ended up dropping Riddle with a DDT, and he went for the cover. Riddle kicked out at 2. So Kevin Owens ended up chopping Riddle against the ropes. Riddle came back, elbowed Kevin Owens, and Gable then ended up pulling Riddle out to the floor, and he delivered a overhead suplex out on the floor to Riddle. Gable ended up fighting back in. Owens ended up blocking a suplex attempt from Gable. So Owens then nailed an enziguri kick to Chad Gable. Owens got up to the second rope. He delivered a springboard elbow drop to Gable. So Owens went for the cover. Gable kicked out at 2. Owens started chopping Gable into the corner. Rollins ended up taking back in. So Rollins and Owens, once again, with the double team, they double teamed on Chad Gable. So Rollins ended up going for the cover, and Gable kicked out at 2. So Rollins was going for a suplex. Gable ended up blocking it. So he ended up ramming Rollins into the turnbuckles. Riddle then ended up running over with a shot to the back of Gable's neck. Rollins ended up fighting both Gable and Riddle off. He ended up hitting the springboard crossbody to both Gable and Riddle. Owens ended up tagging in. He ended up decking Otis off the apron. Rollins ended up decking Orton off of the apron also. Owens and Rollins started unloading on Gable and tossed him out to the floor. So Rollins and Owens end up playing to the crowd, and Rollins then ended up running the ropes. He nailed the suicide dive to both Riddle and Gable. So Rollins ended up rolling Gable back into the ring, And Kevin Owens ended up nailing the Swanton onto Gable. And he went for the cover. Chad Gable ended up kicking out at 2. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Riddle was unloading on Rollins with some kicks. Otis then ended up coming in. He leveled both Riddle and Rollins. And he ended up flying Kevin Owens. So Otis ended up tossing Rollins over the top rope out to the floor. Otis whipped Riddle hard into the corner. And so Riddle went down. So Orton was rallying for Riddle to tag him in. Otis ended up splashing Riddle in the middle of the ring. Chad Gable ended up taking him back in. He ended up trying to put Riddle away. And Riddle ended up kicking out 2. So Otis ended up coming back in. He delivered more damage to Riddle. Riddle ended up coming to the apron. And Otis ended up knocking him back out to the floor. He was quickly stomping away on Riddle. He was preventing Riddle from tagging in Orton. So Otis ended up beating Riddle back down, started towing Orton. Otis ended up climbing up. He ended up posing to boos from the crowd. Otis ended up going for the Vader bomb, and Riddle ended up moving out of the way. Gable and Orton ended up tagging in. Orton started unloading. He ended up hitting a power slam, and he delivered a power slam to Rollins. Orton ended up dropping Kevin Owens off the apron, and he went for the draping DDT to Gable, but Rollins ended up coming over, and Orton ended up doing the double draping DDT to both Rollins and Chad Gable. Orton was fired up. Orton ended up dropping down. He was ready to hit the RKO. Gable ended up blocking the RKO. He ended up taking Orton down by his leg. Orton ended up kicking Gable out to the floor. Rollins ended up going for the stomp to Orton, but Orton ended up dropping Rollins with the RKO. Orton ended up covering Rollins, but Owens ended up pulling Orton out to the floor. He broke up the pin. So then Orton ended up taking Kevin Owens down, and Chad Gable, he also took Chad Gable down at ringside also. Otis ended up attacking, but Orton ended up blocking him. Orton tried to slam Otis on the table, and Riddle ended up joining Orton to assist by putting Otis on the table, on the commentary table. So Riddle and Orton end up slamming Otis on top of the commentary table. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. And you had an awesome part in the match where Chad Gable ended up climbing up to the top. He ended up flying for a moonsault. Riddle ended up moving. And Orton ended up catching Gable with a RKO. Which that was a awesome spot there. So Kevin Owens delivered a super kick to Orton. And Owens and Rollins ended up stunning Otis with some super kicks. And then Owens and Rollins delivered a double super kick to Otis, kicking him out of the ring. Rollins then hit a buckle bomb to Chad Gable. Owens ended up followed up with the stunner to Gable. Rollins then delivered the stomp to Gable. Riddle ended up running in. He tossed Rollins to the floor. And Riddle ended up getting the cover on Gable. And they go, Randy Orton and Riddle ended up winning the match. And once again, RKBro are the Raw Tag Team Champions. So WWE right here, went from RKBro to the Alpha Academy and now back to RKBro. WWE right here is playing hot potato with the Raw Tag Team Championship. You can tell right here because RKBro lost to Alpha Academy, and now Alpha Academy lost the Raw Tag Team titles to RKBro. So it's a little hot potato there with the title. Post match, we had RKBro standing tall in the ring. Owens and Rollins were shocked. Orton and Riddle end up posing in the corners. They end up looking up at the WrestleMania sign. Rollins was stunned as he walked away from the ring. And Owens ended up sitting up against the ring steps. He looked even more shocked. And then Kevin Patrick ended up interviewing RK-Bro. Kevin Patrick ended up asking RKBro what the victory means to them. So Riddle ended up saying that this means we're going to WrestleMania. And Orton ended up saying that he's been doing this more than 20 years now, and he's never had as much fun as he's having with Riddle. And he means that from the bottom of his heart. Orton ended up saying that he's never said the F word in 20 years, but he's going to say it now. He ended up saying that Riddle is his friend. Orton ended up saying that he doesn't have any other friends here but Riddle, and that they are going to WrestleMania. And so, pretty much, that was basically that. But overall, this was a good match between these teams. Very entertaining. Probably the best match of the night. So, the only best match of the night. So, it was enjoyable. And then, after that, we went to shit. This show went to shit after this triple threat match. So we had Tamina versus Dana Brooke for the 24/7 title. Oh, God. We had Dana Brooke end up coming out along with Reggie. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw a backstage video that happened earlier in the day where Dana Brooke was asking Reggie for a good luck kiss, and Reggie ended up giving her one. And then we saw another video where Tamina was backstage, and Akira Tozawa ended up asking Tamina for a good luck kiss. And Tamina ended up hesitating, but Tamina ended up grabbing Tozawa, and she ended up kissing him. And of course, Tozawa, with a shocked look on his face, like, and then he dropped down. That was that. But do I really need to talk about this match? Fuck no, I don't have to. Dana Brooke ended up winning. Who cares? Post-match, Tozawa ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that Dana cheated. He ended up saying that the real winner of the match is the love of his life, Tamina. This is so fucking awful. This was so fucking awful. So Tamina ended up slowly standing up. Tozawa ended up motioning for Tamina to hug him. So Tamina ended up putting Tozawa's arms down, and she kept walking past him. So now fans were chanting, "Kiss him." Why? So Tamina ended up shaking her head, ended up blowing a kiss to Tozawa. This was fucking awful. This was absolutely awful. When the 24/7 title or any superstar that surrounds the 24/7 title, whether it's Dana Brooke and Reggie and Akira Tozawa, R-Truth, Tamina, every time this title gets featured on TV, it makes this show a whole lot worse than it already is. This title needs to be fucking retired. Now I'm going to keep on saying that until WWE does something right and retires this garbage ass title. Makes the show a whole lot worse when it's featured. And then we had Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick ended up approaching Seth Rollins, who was still stunned backstage. So Kevin Patrick was asking Rollins for comments on what happened, in the match, with him and Owens losing. But Rollins had nothing to say. Rollins just stood straight ahead, seething. And that was basically that. So Rollins had nothing to say. Oh, and then we get to The Miz. Miz ended up coming out for a special Cleveland homecoming party because The Miz is from Cleveland. So then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Miz ended up getting on the mic. He announces that he is home. You know what I'm saying? That's what respect sounds like, because the fans were chanting for the Miz because, of course, his hometown. So fans were chanting Miz is awesome. And he ended up saying, no, Cleveland is awesome. So Miz ended up talking about his feud with the Mysterios. And Miz ended up introducing Logan Paul. And Logan Paul ended up coming out. God. So Logan Paul ended up thanking the hometown crowd. So you know what I'm saying? He has nothing but respect for his city, because Cleveland made him the man he is today. So fans were booing Logan Paul, which I was laughing. So Miz ended up telling Logan Paul to not be modest. He made himself. So they end up asking the fans if they want to see a father and son team of losers, the Mysterios, or two pop icons. So Logan Paul ended up saying that Rey Mysterio is a legend, but Dominic is just riding his coattails. So Miz ended up saying that there is someone else who shares their view, and he was born and raised in Cleveland. So they ended up introducing WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. So Jerry Lawler ended up coming out. He was wearing a Cleveland Browns jersey. Jerry Lawler ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying, this is awesome. And he ended up thanking Cleveland. So Lawler ended up talking about his history of being in Cleveland, as a kid. He ended up saying that it's good to hear The Miz talk about Cleveland. And he's glad to be here for the homecoming. So Jerry Lawler ended up saying that he's looking at Miz standing underneath the WrestleMania sign. So how about having a WrestleMania in Cleveland? Which Logan Paul ended up saying, that's an awesome idea. But The Miz was like, really? So Miz ended up saying that he loves Cleveland, but he doesn't see Cleveland as a WrestleMania city. To which the fans end up booing Miz. So The Miz was like, oh, why are you booing me? I want to know why you're booing me. So he ended up saying that the city couldn't even handle WrestleMania pyro. So Miz ended up talking about how he left Cleveland when he found success, because he was like, I don't live here anymore. So he ends up talking about Cleveland when he found success, and other athletes, as did other athletes from Cleveland. He ended up saying that Cleveland will never host a Super Bowl or even a WrestleMania. So The Miz ended up saying that it's time he and Logan Paul leave and focus on beating the Mysterios at WrestleMania, because winners leave Cleveland. And so that was how the segment ended. This segment was awful. This was god awful. You bring Jerry Lawler in there. I'm like, what the fuck does Jerry Lawler have to do with Logan Paul and The Miz going into WrestleMania with the Mysterios? What did it do? It did absolutely nothing. I don't care about this match at WrestleMania between Logan Paul, The Miz, and the Mysterios. I don't. I really don't. What a waste of time. What a waste of time that match is going to be at WrestleMania. I don't care. Jerry Lawler was just there for a paycheck. Just to be in that segment. It did absolutely nothing to hype up The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios. I mean, who is looking forward to that match? I know I ain't. And then we had Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was backstage with Tommaso Ciampa and Bron Breakker, the NXT champion. And I'm like, why is Bron Breakker on Monday Night Raw? So Bron Breakker ended up saying that he's taking it all on his Monday Night Raw debut, and that he's excited. So Kevin Patrick ended up bringing up the NXT Roadblock main event. And it's going to be Bron Breakker defending the NXT Championship against Tommaso Ciampa and Dolph Ziggler. So you end up revealing that first there will be a tag team match tonight with Bron Breakker and Tommaso Ciampa teaming up. So Kevin Patrick ended up asking about the Raw superstars having a home field advantage. So Breakker ended up dismissing the idea of a home field advantage. He ended up saying that this is a dream come true and that he's grateful to be here on Monday Night Raw. Mr. Breakker, I think you need to think again to be grateful to be on Monday Night Raw. Because we all know Raw sucks. So Bron Breakker was representing NXT and getting his hands on Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Tommaso Ciampa ended up saying that Dolph won't get his hands on the NXT Championship and that they've put away the Dirty Dogs once and they will do it again tonight. So Ciampa and Bron Breakker end up heading to the ring. And then we had match Bron Breakker and Tommaso Ciampa versus Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. And this was a meh match in my opinion. Bron Breakker, I like Bron Breakker. He's good in the ring. He's very talented. Current NXT champion. So Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode end up coming out. And then we saw the Street Profits backstage. Sarah Schreiber ended up mentioning how it appears that there is no room for the Street Profits at WrestleMania. So the Profits end up saying that they have 4 more weeks to sprinkle their magic. They end up reminding Sarah Schreiber how they recently pinned RKBro. So the Profits end up saying that the Alpha Academy needs to go to the back of the line, because if anyone is next in line for the Raw Tag Team Championship, it's them. So they end up making it known that they want the smoke. So that was what the Street Profits had to say. And then we went to the match. Tommaso Ciampa, Bron Breakker, Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode. So the match ended up starting, and Breakker started off with Roode. Roode and Breakker ended up going at it. They were trading holds. Breakker delivered a long vertical suplex to Roode. He was holding Roode up in the air, dropped him in the middle of the ring. Breakker ended up holding Roode, and Ciampa ended up coming in. Ciampa started delivering some chops in the corner to Roode. Ciampa kept control of the match. He ended up clotheslining Roode, went for the cover. Roode kicked out at 2. So Ciampa was just grounding Roode a chin lock in the middle of the ring. Roode ended up taking Ciampa to the corner. Ciampa ended up fighting off both Roode and Ziggler. He ended up knocking Ziggler off the apron. So Dolph ended up coming back up to the apron, and Ciampa kicked Dolph off the apron again. Ciampa turned around, and Roode delivered a spine buster to Ciampa. Dolph ended up coming in. He ended up going for Bron Breakker. He ended up popping off the apron to avoid him. And Breakker ended up helping Ciampa out of the ring to safety. So Breakker and Ciampa ended up regrouping at ringside. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Dolph had control of Ciampa. He ended up going for the cover. Ciampa kicked out at 2. Roode ended up taking in. He started working on Ciampa. Roode delivered some knees to the back of Ciampa, but Ciampa ended up hanging on. So Ciampa ended up leveling Roode out of nowhere with the knee to Roode's face, and both Ciampa and Roode ended up going down. Breakker ended up waiting for the tag, and he ended up getting it. So did Dolph Ziggler. So it was Breakker and Ziggler in there. Breakker ended up dropping Ziggler. He ended up knocking Roode off the apron. Breakker ended up delivering a huge overhead throw on Dolph Ziggler. And he delivered a clothesline to Roode as Roode ended up running in. So Breakker ended up grabbing Ziggler, and he ended up getting kicked. Ziggler ended up leaping over Breakker, but Breakker ended up picking up Dolph out of midair. He ended up slamming him. So then at the end of the match, we had Bron Breakker ended up pressing Dolph high in the air. He ended up dropping him into a power slam. And so Breaker ended up going for the cover. And they go Braun Breaker. And Tommaso Ciampa ended up winning the match. So post-match, Ciampa ended up bringing in the NXT Championship. Handed it over to Breaker. Dolph ended up crawling with the mic in hand. He congratulated Breaker on pulling one over on the Dirty Dogs. Dolph ended up saying he liked how Breaker and Ciampa worked together as a team. But Dolph ended up reminding both Ciampa and Breaker that there's a triple threat for the NXT Championship tomorrow. And the second Breaker looks at Ciampa, Dolph will strike and become NXT champion. So Breaker ended up saying their world will come crumbling around them. And Dolph ended up saying that he will be there in all his glory with one more trophy for his case. So pretty much that was what Dolph had to say. So triple threat match for the NXT Championship tomorrow night on NXT 2.0. Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa versus Dolph Ziggler. So there you go. Should be okay tomorrow, the match. But I see Braun Breaker retaining the title. So then we had Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Omos. Sarah Schreiber ended up bringing up how Omas is undefeated since he debuted at WrestleMania last year. He ended up asking if he's worried that there won't be room for him at WrestleMania this year. So Omas ended up asking how many victims he has to dominate for a WrestleMania match. He ended up saying that he is not waiting for his WrestleMania moment. He is taking it, even if he has to punish every single superstar until there is no one left. So Omas ended up heading out to the ring. And then we got Omos versus Apollo Crews. Do I really need to explain this match? We all know who won the match. Omos ended up winning. Omos was just dominating on Apollo Crews. So Omos ended up nailing the choke bomb to Apollo Crews. Omos ended up winning. Omos is terrible in the ring. He's the Great Khali 2.0. And so post-match, we had Omos end up stopping as Commander Aziz ended up coming in to check on Apollo Crews. And so Omos ended up staring Commander Aziz down. They end up facing off in the middle of the ring. So Commander Aziz, he didn't back down. He started staring at Omos. Omos ended up just laughing at Commander Aziz and then made his way out of the ring. Commander Aziz and Omos were just still staring each other down. And that was that. But are we really going to get Omos versus Commander Aziz at WrestleMania? This is going to be Omos' moment at WrestleMania as a singles competitor? God. My God, this WrestleMania. Looking like fucking shit. Man, I watched a little bit of AEW Revolution last night. I missed the first hour. I tuned in at the Face of the Revolution ladder match. And just right from there, that whole show was awesome. It was, in my opinion, 10 out of 10 show. What we saw last night with AEW Revolution was WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania for us. Not the show that we're going to see in 4 weeks. Because look at that AEW Revolution card. That card was awesome. That card was good. You look at WrestleMania's card, man, a bunch of celebrities and part-timers. Man. WrestleMania is going to fucking blow. And then we had Edge end up coming out. And before Edge ended up making his way out, we had them announce that Styles in storyline injury Styles ended up suffering a severe contusion in the attack from Edge. So he was not featured on Monday Night Raw tonight, of course. So then we had Edge end up coming out. They played Edge's music, and then it stopped. And so there was a spotlight on the stage. Edge ended up walking out into the spotlight, and the lights that were shown in the arena were like blue and purple. And I'm like, is this The Undertaker or is this Edge? Might as well just call him Edge Taker. Where is his own version of The Undertaker's urn? He should have carried the urn out there, with the lights looking like that. He was Edge Taker tonight. So Edge ended up slowly walking down to the ring. Edge got on the mic. He ended up saying, "You think you know me?" He ended up saying that he will speak directly to Styles, who is at home. And Styles should put the kids to bed for this one. So Edge ended up saying last week's attack was for Styles to help him. Edge ended up saying that he needs the best Styles at WrestleMania, the flesh-tearing pit bull. He ended up saying that he helped Styles last week, but Styles actually helped him too. Edge ended up saying that it was like his brain finally cracked open, and finally the real him was free to fly, and that it felt so good. Edge ended up saying that he has fallen in love with this new version of himself. It's been a while since we've seen a heel Edge. When Edge was heel at that time in like 2005, 2006, around there, he was one of the best heels in the company. He had Lita there. He was part of the Monday Night Raw roster. His whole feud with John Cena was awesome. So Edge ended up saying that he finally feels control in this ring, in control of any and everything that will happen in this industry. So Edge ended up staring straight ahead at the camera as fans were booing him. Edge ended up telling Styles that he's standing on the mountain of omnipotence. And the view is phenomenal. So Edge then ended up dropping the mic. He ended up staring straight ahead at the camera. And the screen ended up going black. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But liking this version of Edge here, this is heel Edge that we haven't seen in a long while. I'm glad that this version of Edge is back, with him being a heel. It's been a long time since, we've seen Edge as a heel. So, this match I am looking forward to at WrestleMania. Edge versus AJ Styles. I think they're going to deliver at WrestleMania. So, let's see where this goes in the build towards their WrestleMania match. How it progresses as we get to WrestleMania. So then we had Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was backstage with Kevin Owens. He wanted comments from Owens on what happened earlier in the Triple Threat match. Kevin Owens ended up saying that we don't see him as distraught as Seth Rollins was, because the feeling he had when he realized they weren't going to WrestleMania. He never wants to feel that again, and he will never have to because he has an infinity. So he ended up saying that he has an idea, and that idea will change his entire WrestleMania future. So Kevin Patrick ended up asking if Owens wants to share anything. And Owens ended up saying no, not yet. And that he still has some details to iron out. But Owens ended up saying that he has a plan. And he will share that later in the night. So that was what Kevin Owens had to say. And then we had Carmella and Queensland Vega versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. So Liv Morgan ended up coming out first along with Rhea Ripley. And now Rhea Ripley is teaming with Liv Morgan. So what was the point of splitting Rhea Ripley away from Nikki, ASH, from her going from Nikki to Liv Morgan, and WWE putting another tag team when they're not an official tag team? Why did they put Rhea Ripley with Liv Morgan? What the fuck? Does that make any sense? You break up Rhea Ripley and Nikki just for Rhea Ripley to go from her teaming with Nikki to now teaming with Liv Morgan. Does that make any fucking sense? So what was the point of removing Rhea Ripley from Nikki? This match was terrible. This match was awful. So we had Liv Morgan going at it with Carmella. Carmella was wearing her hideous face mask, as always. So she ended up taking Liv to the corner, started working her over. Liv Morgan ended up turning around, ended up dropping Carmella as Rhea Ripley ended up tagging in, and Rhea Ripley delivered a basement dropkick to Carmella. So we had Rhea Ripley later on. She ended up pulling Zelina Vega back towards her. She ended up going for a side slam, and Zelina Vega ended up turning that into a tornado DDT, which sent Rhea Ripley to the floor. And then later on, you had Carmella at ringside, tending to her soon-to-be husband, Corey Graves. So Zelina Vega ended up trying to tag Carmella, but Carmella was busy with her future husband, Corey Graves, at ringside at the commentary table. So Liv Morgan ended up dropping Zelina Vega into her knees, and Rhea Ripley ended up tagging in. Rhea Ripley ended up hitting the Riptide on Zelina Vega and went for the cover, and there you go. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley end up winning the match. And this match, if Liv and Rhea Ripley won the match, they will get a shot at the Women's Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania, along with Sasha Banks and Naomi. So I'm like, what did Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley do to earn a shot at this? Nothing. This is once again WWE just putting their superstars in a match, and if they win it, oh, there you go, easy pass. Get your shot at the Women's Tag Team titles at WrestleMania. Once again, this is WWE hand-given a free pass for superstars to face and hopefully win the Women's Tag Team titles. Now I ask you again, what did Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley do to earn an opportunity? Absolutely nothing. So then as Monday Night Raw came back from commercial, we had the second induction into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. And the second induction is Vader. Vader is going into the Hall of Fame, which is very deserving. Vader, may he rest in peace. So there goes your second inductee into the Hall of Fame, along with The Undertaker. And then we had Finn Balor versus Austin Theory. So we had Balor end up making his way out. And then we had Austin Theory end up coming out. Austin Theory ended up taking a selfie on his way down to the ring. And then we cut to the video of when Vince McMahon appeared on the Pat McAfee show, where Vince ended up offering McAfee a spot on the card. And we saw on SmackDown on Friday how Austin Theory ended up coming there to confront Mcafee to have their match at WrestleMania, which Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory, really? I mean, Pat McAfee was good. He surprised me when he competed at takeovers, with Adam Cole. His whole rivalry with Adam Cole there. And, when he was in the War Games match, it was Team Cole versus Team McAfee. But he surprised me, Pat McAfee, when he was in the ring with Adam Cole at that time in NXT. So the match ended up starting, which this match was okay, in my opinion. So Balor started to unload on Theory in the corner. Theory ended up finding out. He ended up dropping Balor with a shoulder. So Theory ended up stomping on Balor. He ended up taking Balor face first into the turnbuckle. Theory ended up delivering some thrusts, some shoulder thrusts in the corner to Balor. Theory ended up delivering the double stomp on Balor. He went for the cover, and Balor kicked out at 2. So Theory started grounding Balor. It was back and forth between the two. Theory ended up sending up Balor in the apron, and he ended up putting Balor on his shoulders. Balor ended up going to his feet, and he hit the sling blade to Theory on the floor. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Theory ended up dropping Balor, ended up nailing the rolling drop kick, and he ended up going for the cover. Balor ended up kicking out too. So Theory on the ground and Balor, he was showing some frustration. Balor turned it around, started mounting some offense on Theory. So Balor ended up going for a suplex. Theory ended up blocking it. He ended up dropping Balor, launched himself in from the apron with the stomp. So at the end of the match, we had Balor end up hitting a corner drop kick to Austin Theory. Balor ended up going up to the top to set up to hit the coup de grace. And Damian Priest appeared out of nowhere. So Damian Priest was on the apron. He ended up grabbing Balor by his throat, shoving him off the top, and the referee ended up calling for the bell. So Balor ended up winning the match by disqualification. So post-match, Priest ended up coming into the ring, started stalking Balor. Priest ended up dropping Balor with the Razor's Edge, just like he did last week, where he ended up doing the Razor's Edge to Balor on the commentary table. So Priest's music ended up hitting. He looked up at Balor and at the WrestleMania sign. Austin Theory then re-entered the ring, started taking selfies with Balor. And then Theory ended up grabbing Balor and delivered the ATL to Balor. So Theory ended up going back down. He ended up taking more selfies with Balor laid out. And that was that. But overall, it was an okay match. And then we saw Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was backstage with Bianca Belair. Becky Lynch wasn't on the show tonight because she was in the hospital because of her voice box, because she injured it in the house show last night. So Bianca Belair ended up saying that she has one simple rule: don't touch her hair. Because they end up playing the footage from last week where Becky was pulling on Bianca's hair, and then Bianca ended up whipping her into the ropes, came back and whipped her with her hair, with Becky with her hair. So Bianca ended up saying that she doesn't need her hair to win. She and Becky are WrestleMania main eventers and should be out there tearing it up. She ended up saying Becky got what she was asking for. So Bianca ended up going on, she ended up declaring that she will leave WrestleMania as the Raw Women's Champion. So that was that, but don't even care for the match at WrestleMania between Bianca and Becky Lynch. I really don't. And then we had Kevin Owens end up coming out to make his big announcement. So Kevin Owens was in the ring. He ended up saying it's official. He doesn't have a match at WrestleMania. And it's okay, because he thinks he knows how he can get there. And he will depend the answer to this challenge. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he wants to have the biggest, most stupendous episode of the KO show at WrestleMania. And because of where WrestleMania is held this year, he knows his guest has to be some lowlife from Texas. So he's taking shots at JBL, Booker T, Shawn Michaels. They're all from Texas. So he ended up giving Shawn Michaels some props, but says as a proud Canadian, it would be sacrilegious to have Shawn Michaels on his show. And out of respect to Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels can't be the guest. So Kevin Owens ended up bringing up another WWE Hall of Famer. And he was predicting this guy is off drinking beer, like the redneck that he is. So he ended up taking more shots. Fans were booing him. He was bringing up how bad this guy's knees were. And Kevin Owens ended up saying that nothing would make him happier than to beat the hell out of this guy in his home state, and to give him a stunner the world would talk about for years, and then pour a glass of milk over his lifeless body. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he knows this person is watching, and he thinks this person doesn't have the guts to show up. Oh, he will definitely show up. He will. So Kevin Owens ended up finally naming his guest for the KO show. And that guy is none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin. So Kevin Owens ended up slamming the mic down as the crowd ended up popping. And they ended up announcing the KO show for WrestleMania. And they gave a question mark next to Austin's name. Will Austin show up? Without a doubt, Austin is showing up at WrestleMania. It's in his home state. But Austin will be there. He will be on the KO show. And thank God this is not going to be a match with Stone Cold and Kevin Owens. Thank God. I would have not wanted to see Stone Cold get back in the ring. He had his proper send-off at WrestleMania 19 against The Rock, which was awesome. Which I am glad that WWE is not going to be doing that. They're not going to have Stone Cold come back in the ring just to face Kevin Owens. I mean, who would have wanted to see Stone Cold back in the ring? I know I didn't. I know a lot of you probably won't either. I wouldn't have wanted to see Stone Cold back in the ring. That ship has sailed long ago. So, but I'm glad it's just a KO show segment. Stone Cold Steve Austin will be there at WrestleMania, without a doubt. He will be in this KO show segment with Kevin Owens. But anyways, Monday Night Raw, awful show as always, absolutely terrible. Aside from the triple threat match for the Raw Tag Team Championship tonight, everything else, just, eh. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And be sure to check out my movie hunting video that I uploaded earlier today if you guys haven't seen it. So, until then, I'll see you all later. I'll see you all Wednesday with the AEW Dynamite review.